Okay, so this is number 21 on lesson 3-7, page 155. It says, which of the following could be true if the second derivative of f of x equals x to the negative 1/3? So the first expression that they give you is f of x equals 3/2 times x to the 2/3 minus 3. So if we do the derivative, you take 2/3 times 3/2, that gives you 1. You make that exponent 1 smaller, 2/3 minus 1 is negative 1/3. The derivative of negative 3 would be 0. You do the second derivative, you subtract another 1 off of that. Would that be able to equal this? No. So if you do the derivative again, you're going to get negative 1/3 x to the, subtract 1 off again, you're going to get negative 4/3. So A is definitely not true. Okay, A, the second derivative definitely is not equal to that. This is not A. Letter B. Not f of x equals 9/10 times x to the 5/3 minus 7. So if you take 5 times 9, that's 45. 3 times 10 is 30. Take that exponent down by 1, so 5/3 minus 3/3 is 2/3. Derivative of negative 7 is 0. There's your first derivative. And 45/30 is the same as 3/2. Now do the second derivative. Take 2/3 times 3/2, that's 1. Or 6/6, which is 1. Take 1 off of 2/3, that comes down to x to the negative 1/3. So it looks like B, if you do the derivative of B, it's true, you will end up with this. Now it says, which of the following? It sounds like it could be more than 1. But what does it look like? It looks to me like if the exponent has to start with 5/3 to end up down at negative 1/3, doesn't it? Because if you subtract 1 again, subtract 1 to get the first derivative, subtract 1 to get the next derivative. The only way you're going to end up with a negative 1/3 is if the original, in the second derivative, is if your original problem is x to the 5/3. Now, there's some other, but notice that it's a little bit tricky because letter C says f triple prime of x equals negative 1/3 x to the negative 4/3. So what should I do to check to see if this is right? If this is the third derivative, and this is the second derivative, how can I check to see if this makes sense with this? Do the derivative of this. So f triple prime, I multiply by negative 1/3 up front, which would give me this. Make that one smaller, which would give me this. This one's also true. So B and C are also true. But B and C are both true. Letter D, f prime of x, this is the first derivative, equals 3/2 x to the 2/3 plus 6. So if I do the derivative of this, to get my second derivative, 2/3 times 3/2 would be 6/6, or 1x to the, subtract 1, negative 1/3. Derivative of 6 would be 0. This also matches up with this. So really, B, C, and D are all true. The only one that's false is A. Any questions about that? You kind of try to throw a curveball at you because they start throwing the original function, the second derivative, the third derivative, which is one of the reasons I